gets laid. Dawn's in the building, his swag so tight. Check your feelings, he's exposing all the lies. Every Thursday at 8, his voice takes the stage. The man's got soul like a record with age.
I guess we're on the air.
Yeah.
I guess we're on the air. Right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the Don Miller Show podcast. Again, we've been doing this for a long time. This podcast thing is not my forte, but I was pushed into it by people like Phil and some of these other young people.
I pushed you hard.
Who think that I should be doing podcasts. I'm a radio guy for many, many, many years. And as a matter of fact, I'm making the announcement I'll be back to radio in the next month. And so all of our friends who might be listening in the Panhandle who followed our show for many, many years, we are so excited to continue the Don Miller Show back on radio. The little hiatus was great for me. I needed a break because what we do here is different than most people doing radio broadcasts. This is no-nonsense radio. Again, subscribe and like. Is that what I'm supposed to say, right?
Yep.
Subscribe and like. Oh, for the people who ask me about the sunglasses, there's a lot of damn lights in here.
Yeah, it's bright.
And it's very bright, and I got sensitive eyes. You get old, y'all still want me to be able to see any damn thing, but it's a lot of lights in here. Again, thank you so much. Shout out to Phil, the podcast doctor.
What's up, man?
And shout out to, man, listen, this young lady has been so instrumental in getting me to understand how to do this podcast thing. Shout out to Amber Cuccia at Amber Cuccia Designs. Thank you, Amber, for just always taking my phone calls and letting me go south all the damn time. To all the listeners who have been following us, subscribe and like, follow us on all platforms, The Don Miller Show. Again, coming back to radio real soon. Big announcement coming up in the next few weeks, so stay with us on that. So let me tell you how I came about this conversation, Phil.
All right.
The other night, I've been following the situation at Florida A&M University, a storied institution of higher learning in this country for many years, ranked as the top HBCU, even when people thought there were others. It was Florida Agriculture and Mechanical in beautiful Tallahassee, Florida. I go all the way back to Dr. Humphreys, who was the president when I first came to Florida, and Dr. Mobley, who ran a wonderful program, the business school at that university. I remember meeting her many years ago with my friend Lee Iacocca, who at the time was the chairman of Chrysler Corporation. And she brought many people to that school, many CEOs at a time when it was not fashionable, but she brought them to that school. I'll never forget some of the stories that she shared, but she ran a great storied program, SBI, Florida Agriculture and Mechanical. Rest in peace, Doc. Also, the pharmacy school, one of the top in the nation, if not the top, for many, many years. So Florida Agriculture and Mechanical it has been a storied institution, and you can say nothing bad about from whence it came. And I just want to shout those rattlers out who converge on Central Florida, where I broadcast from once a year for the Classic. Boy, it'd be a whole bunch of orange and green in this bitch, in this piece that weekend. And so, again, thank you so much. So recently, there's been a significant conversation going around about Florida Agriculture and Mechanical and the hiring of a new president. Marva Johnson was voted on recently by the board of trustees at the university, and they voted to make her the president of the university. Ms. Johnson has a very solid, illustrious career in business and politics. She's solid. I know a lot of people don't like her, but we have to seek information and move away from emotion as the Negro in America. We continue to be co-opted by people who don't like us, and I contend and say all the time that black people are the only people that let our enemy pick our damn enemy, and we have to move away from that. So again, Marva Johnson was voted on by the board, and now she is going before the Florida board to be voted on and that's coming up in a few weeks in South Florida. And there's been a lot of pushback from many of the alumni at such university, Florida A&M. Oftentimes the conversation has been for her lack of qualifications to run a institution or educational institution at this level. And so I want to come on based on something happened the other day. So I'm at an amazing event, the 100 Black Men of Florida, for many years, and I was an early member of the 100 Black Men. They had a gala the other day and giving away thousands of dollars as they have done for many years. And I see Marva Johnson, and I've known Miss Johnson for a long time. And of course, we embraced and we chatted, and I've known her for a long time. I have nothing bad to say about Marva Johnson. And someone walked up to me after my conversation, two people, with Marva Johnson, and asked, "How dare you talk to her?" And this was an alumnus of the university, Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University. And she got up in my face. Fortunately, it was a friend of mine, and so I took it differently. And she was like, "Why are you talking to her?" And then another person was like, "Why would you even talk to her?" And I just decided, I think there needs to be a conversation about what's going on at Florida A&M. So I decided to do this conversation, and shout out to Sam and Sean, my good friends in Central Florida, for helping me kind of. First of all, it was Sean who got up in my face. I just want to put that out there. Sean Danner, Danner, okay, ran up on me like, "What you doing?" She always trying to be up on you like, "What you doing?" So Sean, I decided to have this conversation because you, okay, and again, so joining me here on the show, she is a 1996 graduate of Florida A&M University. She is a proud alumnus, Lauren Carter. Hey, Lauren.
Hey, Don. How are you?
Man, I'm glad you came on to join us. Proud alumnus, engineering, right?
Yep, civil engineering technology.
Civil engineering technology from Florida A&M University, 1996. And Lauren, my question today, and I spoke with some other people. I spoke with someone from the National Alumni Association right before the broadcast as well. What is the issue? I'm watching this as an outsider, but an outsider that have been engaged with HBCUs for a long time. What is the issue here with the vote supporting Marva Johnson?
Well, Don, I'd say it's multi-pronged. The major one being that she was the least qualified candidate that was presented.
Okay.
And also that she was included in the process very late, kind of out of the blue, and didn't go through the initial vetting process that the other applicants did. And then in addition to that, we believe we already had the perfect candidate already in a role in the university.
Okay. So what you're saying is this lady was the least qualified out of the people that were vetted through the national search, correct?
Correct.
And so with that being said, the board of 12, is it 12?
Yes.
Okay. Still decided to vote
13,
her.
sorry.
13 to vote her in,
Yes.
correct? And
Well,
so,
not unanimously, but yes.
but it was more than it was for her than against her, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So they voted her in, and the uproar started. You have people who have contributed to the university and a bunch of alumni saying this lady doesn't belong here because the way she was placed into contention, if there was contention, sounds like it, she was just kind of put in this spot. So your question is, she is the least qualified. Are you familiar with the other people that were the finalists?
Yes. I watched
Okay.
all of the interviews of the 4 finalists.
Okay, and you think she
No.
was the least qualified. So what do you seek as an alumnus of Florida A&M? What do you seek for a president of the university? What would be the most important criteria?
The most important criteria for me, first of all, would be someone that understands the mission and purpose of the university
Okay.
intimately. I mean, of course, she's an intelligent woman, so surely she could understand in writing what it is. But having someone who has experience in academia, and of course, the preference would be that they have experience at an HBCU. because I think we can
Why
agree
is that? Why would the preference be that they have experience in a HBCU when most HBCUs are failing?
Well, I wouldn't agree that most HBCUs are failing,
Would you
first
like
of
to hear
all.
the numbers?
And failing in what way?
Okay, graduation rates. Would you like to hear the numbers?
I mean, if you want to share them,
Okay,
feel
no,
free.
the numbers are horrible. Go look. I can tell you the numbers, with the exception of your school and a couple of more. Many of them are not doing well in graduating the predominantly black kids who go to these schools. I get it.
Okay.
You know, you're supporting your school. That's fine. But one thing about this show, we're a little different than a lot of other shows. I contend, and I can prove it, that most HBCUs are failing. Now, with that being said, so you think that understanding the culture and the direction is more important than anything else?
I didn't say it was more important. You asked me what I would prefer.
Okay, well,
What
that's
I would
what you
prefer
prefer.
is someone who has experience at HBCUs, specifically for the reason that you're talking, because there are a lot of reasons that contribute to them having lower graduation rates.
Okay.
You know,
Okay, great.
so there's
Okay, can you
that.
talk about those reasons for a minute, real quick?
Well,
Because
we're
a lot
gonna-
of my audience is new to this conversation. A lot of my audience had never even, some of these people watching this show right now, ma'am, probably overwhelmingly feel what you think, don't even know what an HBCU is.
Probably.
It is historically black college university. So what do you attribute the failing numbers to?
One of the first things that I would say would be a lot of the students tend to be first time in college students. They don't come from families that, have experience in higher education, nor do they have the financial wherewithal to, matriculate the entire way. Most of those that leave, it's due to finances. So that's
Okay.
why the graduation rates are what they are.
Okay.
I mean, because
Okay.
even if you get the max Pell Grant plus the eligibility for student loans, there's still going to be a deficit.
Okay. And you don't attribute this deficit to coming from bad high schools?
Not always.
Okay, so you say it's mostly financial.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So finding someone who understands this is very important, and the culture and the direction of the university is very important. And
Yes.
I agree with you. Dr. Humphreys understood this. Dr. Mobley understood this. I say I can go down the list. I know for a fact Elmira understood it, and Dr. Emmons understood it. So you're saying that this current person who was put in this position does not understand it.
That, in addition to the fact that every person you mentioned had experience in academia,
Okay.
and
okay.
she does not.
Well, I don't know what experience in academia looks like. From what I understand, she was on the State Board of Education for a number of years. I don't, maybe that's not educational experience. I don't know. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say absolutely not. That's not the same thing. I can sit on the school board right now, but that doesn't mean I could go and be a principal.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, great. So, so your issue is they kind of snuck her in, but she still got the numbers. And what I've been reading that bothers me the most is the attack on this black women by black people, right? By allegedly black educated people. You can differ in opinion about her experience in academia, but to attack her to the extent that many of these college graduates have attacked her, I have a real problem with that, because this is still a black woman. So when you're watching what is being put out there and what people are saying about her in a public forum, people who look like her, not white folk, but people who look like her, does that kind of at all rub you the wrong way as a black woman?
What have you seen? Like, what are we talking
Oh,
about?
they're talking about her hair and come on, you've seen it. I don't read a lot of the propaganda attachment that the Negro buys into, but so you're saying she's not the person because of a lack of experience in academia, and so let's move quickly to the point that I want to get to. So I'm reading also that her relationship with the governor of Florida and as a Republican has something to do with this as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm not a Floridian. I don't live in Florida. I live in North Carolina. But I am very invested in what happens in Florida because I just had my daughter graduated from FAMU in 24. I'm a
Congratulations.
thank you. I'm a property owner in Florida, so I do pay Florida state tax. And
So you
one of
do
the
have a
things
say.
I should
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely, right.
The affiliation with the current administration in Florida that has made it a point to, remove Black history from schools,
Okay.
decentralize people of color and our history is a problem.
Okay.
And we don't even want to get into the whole election situation where Marva was an elector. And one of the questions she was asked during the last forum of her day of interviews with alumni and people in the community was, did she believe that the 2020 election was stolen?
Okay. And
And
she
she would
said
not
no.
even directly, and no, she didn't say no. She didn't
Okay.
answer the question. What she said was she believes in the law. And the court said that it was legitimate, which is not
Okay.
answering the question. And
Okay.
that was one big issue that a lot of us took with her entire interview process is anytime that people directly asked her questions like that, she would dance around it and never give a direct answer. And, we can only assume there's a reason for that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So they didn't like her answer on that question. Okay. So if I ask you that question as an alumnus of this university, do you believe the election was stolen?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
And
Fine. Okay. All right. So you believe that Ms. Johnson should have answered the question either yes or no?
yeah, it was a yes or no question.
Okay. Great. All right. So her attachment to this governor and to the party in which she has supported historically and been appointed by historically, Marva Johnson has been appointed by two Republican governors. DeSantis is not the first governor that she's been appointed by. Rick Scott was one. Do you think that has something to do with this?
It would appear so.
Okay.
It definitely would appear so.
Because you think there's some racial stuff going on with this governor?
I don't know what you can label it what you want, but I would say that it's very obvious that he has an intent to dismantle anything that does not lend to whiteness.
Okay, okay. So what do you say about the 18% of black women who voted for this governor in the 2018 cycle? There were 650,000 black women who voted. 18% voted. This is by CNN. This is CNN. This is not Fox or any of those people. This is a CNN exit poll that says 18% of black women in this state voted for Governor DeSantis. So what do you say about that then? This is a racist governor and he's moving toward whiteness. What do you say about to the 18% of black women in this state who voted
I would
for him?
say that because I don't vote in Florida, I didn't follow what his platform was
Okay.
enough to know how he presented himself. I would also say that 18% out of 100 is a very small number, and that there will always be people on both sides.
Okay,
And there
wait.
have always been people that vote against their own interests.
There's not a small number when the margin for him winning was 40,000 votes. So that's actually not a small number. That's at least 100,000 almost, right? And it was the tightest cycle, probably the second cycle was the tightest cycle in the history of the state of Florida. Mr. Gillum, who probably went to school with you, running against DeSantis, and the numbers were legitimately there. So to all those black people who decided to vote for this governor, you say they voted for a guy who was racing toward whiteness. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, essentially, if you want to paraphrase, sure.
Okay. Okay, great. So let me ask you this question, getting back to the board and the board's pick of Ms. Johnson. And I would put on the record, I've known Ms. Johnson for a long-ass time, and she is, as far as I'm concerned, a decent person. I think she has some real concerns about people of color. I've seen her exhibited in difficult rooms. So that to me, when I heard this whole conversation come about, was kind of like, whoa, what's that about? I also know the role of a college president, and a college president, in many instances, is not there to run a university's day-to-day operations as much as it is to get out in front of the people with checks and engage them and bring money to the institution. Would you agree with that?
I would say in addition to, but absolutely.
Okay,
And be
all right.
clear, Don, when we first started this process, me personally, I always thought that the perfect person would be someone that has some business experience as well. Because I do believe people that have been in academia, sometimes now that I have been a parent and had a kid in college and some of the challenges we dealt with, I could always tell the people who have never worked in corporate America by the way they
Absolutely.
handle things. So I
Correct.
understand your point that, having some business acumen could be beneficial,
Okay.
but having no academic acumen is detrimental.
Okay.
Like she literally won't know, even if it's not even the day to day, it's any day. There are going to be issues that are specifically academic that she has no depth in whatsoever.
Okay.
And
Let me ask you a
go
question.
ahead.
So you lived in Florida for a period of time while you were going to school, sounds like, right?
I did.
You're familiar with Florida State University?
I am.
Florida State University had a president by the name of T.K. Weatherall. You familiar with him?
Yes.
Okay. You know what his job before he went to Florida State was?
I believe it was corporate.
He was a politician. He was a Speaker of the House.
Okay.
There's a guy at Florida State by the name of Sandy Lamberti. Before he became the president of Florida State, you know what his job was?
No, what?
He was a politician. John Thrasher, who became the president of Florida State University. You know what his job was? He was a
Am I gonna-
politician. The current
Understood.
president, who just left her job 2 weeks ago as the lieutenant governor of Florida, is the new president of FIU. Guess where her job was? She was a politician,
politician.
right? So
Yes.
Joe Pickens was a politician. He's at St. John's River State. Manny Diaz just took the job at West Florida. He was a politician. I can go down the list of people who have left politics to run universities and who've been very successful because of the relationships that they built in politics simply to go out and raise money for these schools. You look at Thrasher's numbers at Florida State, they're amazing. You look at the people before Thrasher at Florida State, the politicians, they were also in line with these governors, and they were amazing. And go down the list, you'd be like, damn, okay. So my point is this, right? These white folk ain't asked no questions, and I got a whole bunch of Seminole fans who give giant checks. Shout out to Manny Garcia, my good friend, who gives a ton of money to Florida State University. They did not say one word when these politicians became presidents of their schools, right? You look at FAU. A politician became the president of FAU after he left the State House. My concern is we have misdirected anger without knowledge. Richard Corcoran, who was just recently the Secretary of Education, was a politician. He's now the president of the New College of Florida. When I look at black people, don't understand that a lot of times this goes hand in hand. This is not about us. This is not about black people. This is not about FAMU. When you look at the University of Michigan guy just came to Florida, the Florida Board of Trustees gave him a thumbs up. He quit his job at Michigan. Then the Florida Board of Education, the board just voted to not give him the job after he quit his job at Michigan. Do you think this is about black people for real? Or this is the way this is played and the hand of politics is too prevalent in education?
I believe the hand of politics is too prevalent in education.
Absolutely. So can we stay there? And I think more people will sympathize with the conversation if you just say the hand of politics and its involvement with education in Florida is the issue here. Because Marva can run that school. Marva can bring a lot more money to that school than Dr. Emmons, than any of the previous people, except for probably Dr. Mobley and Dr. Humphreys, who was a genius, right? Think about this. Your college, ma'am, has had 5 presidents in under 20 years. How can you grow an institution with that turnover?
Well, the success speaks for itself. We had over 20-some thousand applicants just for this incoming freshman class.
Okay,
So
and what's your
if we were
acceptance?
allowed to grow,
What's the acceptance rate?
The Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know
I
that
know.
exact number.
Can
What
I
is
tell
it?
you? I even can tell you what the acceptance rate was in '92 when you went there.
Okay.
It was very low. They weren't letting everybody in when you went to Florida Agriculture and Mechanical.
And they
I
really don't
guarantee you,
now.
Phil, look up the acceptance rate to Florida A&M right now. So 20,000 applicants, that's a lot of applications. But what is the acceptance rate? And I believe we pick our issues, and sometimes we pick them wrongly. Somebody just sent me a message that Frank Brogan, who was the former lieutenant governor of Florida, former education commissioner, is a college president now. So the point I make is this. What is it?
33%.
33% is the acceptance rate, right? It was less than that when you went, right? I can
Probably.
tell you this. My issue with Florida Agriculture and Mechanical and Miss Johnson being the president, I thumbs up because I know she can go out to the corporate community and bring some money to your school. My concern is these raggedy ass people on this board like your vice chair. And y'all should be mad at him. It's amazing how you misdirect the issue with Marva Johnson when you should be talking about your vice chair, okay, Devron Gibbons. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, he's the one that introduced her into this process.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
my,
and how significant was the pushback?
very.
What
It
about
was
the
very
alum?
significant. And here's the thing, you know, we didn't just start speaking against her as an option after she was offered the job.
Right.
Her entire interview process included people standing at microphones saying, ma'am, respectfully, we do not want you. She heard that from the students. She heard that from the alumni. She heard that from celebrity alumni. She heard that.
Okay,
This was
okay.
no secret prior to her ever even being offered the job.
Okay.
That
Let
once
me
we
just say something.
understood
You
that
just,
she was included in the process, we did not want her.
okay, you just said something interesting. Two people I don't want to hear you mention. The students and celebrity alumni, right? I don't give a damn about celebrity alumni. The issue with this being done the way it was done should have been directed at the board. If they did a backdoor move, your issue should be with the board and not the person. And
Our
this
issue
is how
is
we,
with the board.
ma'am, you should have been calling for the removal of the people who voted for her.
But here's the thing, they're appointed by the governor,
Okay,
the
guess
same
what?
person who's supporting her.
Guess what? And the board at many of these schools are appointed by the governor. FAU,
All of the
FIU,
state
go look.
schools, absolutely.
Go, go
Yeah.
down the list.
That's
Why
the
don't we
state
see this?
university system.
Why don't we see this outrage when a white school picks a politician to run the school?
You'd
Explain
have
that
to
one
ask
to me.
that alum. You'd have to ask that alum.
No, I'm asking you because they keep picking these white politicians to run these white schools, and I haven't seen any outrage. And many of these white schools have better numbers than your school.
I can't speak for them. I
Okay,
don't know.
all right,
I
okay.
do know that what happened with that gentleman from Michigan, there are people that are unhappy about that as well for the reasons that the Board of Governors turned him away after
Absolutely.
their Board of Trustees wanted him.
Okay, and
So
I
again,
understand
it's
that totally.
politics.
That was that again. So the question should be, politics in the education system is a no-no. Okay, and I contend that the outrage from your alumni, and I don't put a whole lot into what the students have to say because most of them don't know who the president is at the school they attend. Let's be clear. Okay.
Oh, you can't say that about Florida A&M.
Okay.
Our
Okay. All right.
presidents are
All
always
right.
front and center.
Okay. Okay. All right. Because you're talking about when you were there, ma'am.
No, I'm talking about now.
Okay,
Larry
all right.
Robinson was loved by that student
Yeah,
body.
and Larry Robinson was recycled how many times?
Every
How many
time we
times
needed
was
an
Larry
interim.
Robinson recycled?
At least 3.
Okay, right. So Larry was the interim 3 times, right? Why didn't he ever get the job?
He did. He was the permanent president when he left.
Okay. And then they went back and got him
Initially,
again.
the way the interim contracts are written, the interim person cannot get the job. That's why Dr. Beard is leaving and why we're in this situation we're in now with Marva.
So you
The
believe
contracts
Dr.
for
Beard,
interims-
you believe Dr. Beard should have been the president?
No, I never said that.
Okay. I think Dr. Beard's qualified.
I mean, he's done a decent job. But
So
he
if
came
you could
knowing he
close
was
your
not
eyes
staying.
and pick, if you could close your eyes and pick, who would you have chosen out of the finalists?
I would have chosen Dr. Palm.
Okay. Who?
Dr. Palm, he's the
Tell-
current COO of the
Okay.
university.
So you want to keep a FAMU person there?
Well, he's a FAMU person who's had experience outside of FAMU. He's
Mm-hmm.
worked at Virginia State. He's, worked at various institutions.
All black,
He-
right?
He taught,
All black, right?
as far as I know.
Okay, right. Okay. So you just want somebody who come from HBCU pretty much.
Not necessarily. If he had
Okay.
experience at PWIs or elsewhere, that would have been fine too. I want someone who I know what their intent is with my
But you guys
university.
ran Elmira Mangum out, and she came from Cornell.
Not me. I was very much a fan of Dr. Mangum. especially
Okay,
being from
absolutely.
upstate
Me
New
too.
York and being familiar with.
Okay,
with-
right.
with
She from up
Cornell.
there where you from.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, absolutely. And she was solid. But they
Very
ran her
solid.
out of there.
They did.
When
The
they ran
proverbial
her out of
day.
there, they ran her out of there. Okay, listen to this. And I like to thank you, Lauren, for joining us, please. They ran her out of there when U.S. News and World Report ranked FAMU the best HBCU in America. And they ran her out of there. To such an extent, they had to write checks to her for how long? For several years. Right?
Yes.
The issue is, if y'all just want somebody who went to a HBCU, just say that. Put that in the criteria for the new look, for the finalists. You got to go to HBCU. Okay? You got to work at a HBCU, because that's what it sounds like to me, because you had some pretty good damn people. And Dr. Ammons wasn't terrible. Please understand. You've had 5 presidents in under 20 years. Is that a concern of yours at all?
Absolutely. The instability is a concern.
Absolutely, yeah. You're a professional corporate lady, ma'am. So I know you understand. Okay? No, for real. Come on, right? Stability is what makes this work. Having someone over a period of time that can get out. Think about this. Let's just talk about FAM for a minute, right? If you understand the history of Florida A&M, and I kind of understand the history more than some of these people who talk to me about FAMU, because I spend a lot of time, Phil, as you know, I'm always reading, right? Mm-hmm. If you go down the list of the greatest presidents of that university, they have all been there for a significant amount of time. Before Dr. Humphreys, it was Gore and it was Lee, who built every building on that campus in his tenure, right? But they all were there for more than 10, 15 years. You can't turn something around in a 4 or 5 year term. You can't. The issue should be, how long can we keep people and what do we have to do? And then the voices on the board, you got to look to the people on the board who've achieved some level of success them damn selves, right? No matter who appoint them, you got to be like, okay, what did you do? How did you get this job? Are you on this board because you have, played a game with somebody who appointed you because of some position you've taken on some issue, correct?
Right.
Let's get back to Devron Gibbons, right? Why is there no more outrage toward this dude?
That's an excellent question. I think right now we're making the main thing the main thing.
The main thing is not this lady who's qualified to run the school, who can bring more money to the school than a lot
That's
of
your
these
opinion,
people.
Don.
I'm just
That's your
telling you.
opinion.
The last
Just
5
because
presidents.
she has business acumen does not make her qualified to run
But the last
number
5
one public HBCU. If
Okay,
she
then-
wants higher education experience,
Okay.
she could start at one of the junior colleges
Okay.
or somewhere else
Okay.
and work her way up.
Well, why not go get Ava Parker from Palm Beach State, right? She's a black woman, lawyer, brilliant scholar. I love her. Okay?
I don't
My
know that
point,
she didn't apply.
okay, guess why? Because nobody wants to deal with the FAMU nonsense anymore. You've had 5 presidents in under 20 years, and not one of them have brought money to your institution. Maybe I don't know. Tell me which one brought some money.
I mean, we're still getting money in all the time.
Okay, no. But I'm not saying you're getting money in. Which president? Well, you go back to the history of Lee and Humphreys, okay?
Well,
and,
no one did more than Humphreys. That's hands down. Like, there's no comparison.
But you got to understand, Hump was great, but Dr. Mobley and Humphreys was the team.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's be clear. Hump was great, but Dr. Mobley and Humphrey made that institution go fast.
They did.
I'm concerned that you keep cycling through people that you'll never get someone who will sit down and settle in and that's able to turn this institution in the right direction. I get it. A lot of y'all are still living off FAMU of the 80s and 90s. It was great then. I remember growing up when I first moved to Florida, I had never seen anything like that. I was like, this is so cool, right? And I also remember going up there to have a meeting, and the business students wore clothes to class. I was like, where they going? And they had on suits. Remember that?
They still do.
Okay. But not to that magnitude, ma'am. I'm
No,
saying
that was a class called Forum that they had to do once a week, and that's still required.
Okay.
Absolutely.
but it was a different school. The placement, the job placement was at the highest level. And don't tell me that's still the same. I know that for a fact. I just talked to two CEO friends of mine who have been in their companies for 30 years, and now they're the CEOs, but they remember that they were sending the most high-level people in their executive in the C-suite to FAMU to recruit. Not recruiters, but executives. They're not doing that anymore.
Well,
How do you get back to that?
I would debate that, Don.
Okay,
When you
all
look
right.
at where we are in social mobility, which is exactly what you're talking about, if you look at our social mobility numbers, we're one of the highest in the country.
Okay,
So
all
yes,
right.
we are still placing students
Okay.
exactly where they need to be. We're creating professionals every day. We're creating entrepreneurs every day. Our students are highly successful.
Okay, you sure?
Yes.
Okay, what's your graduation rate in 5 years? Tell me you don't know. Just say, I don't know.
Go ahead, tell me what you think it
No,
is.
I'm just
and I'll
asking.
shut
I
up.
don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh, well, you asked me as if you knew.
You know what it is? You should know what it is. You're speaking on behalf of the school, ma'am.
Listen, do you?
You know y'all got celebrities. I want to know the graduation
because they're my
rate.
classmates.
Huh?
Because they're my classmates. so
Oh,
sure,
the
I know
celebrities. Okay, Phil, you know celebrities went to school with you? Because I ain't go to school with no celebrities. Bunch of dope dealers. But the point I'm making, ma'am, is that, let me just say this. I'm concerned that the direction, the misdirected anger is really becoming a challenge to me to watch this. I'm so glad you came on, Lauren. I mean this for real, right? And my concern is, I believe this lady's going to be approved for sure. But I also think it's unfair as black people I think you could be angry till the vote goes through or whatever. But do you think that she will be embraced once this happens, or are y'all going to still push back on her?
I doubt it. Because
You
of
doubt
how
she's going to be
behaved.
approved?
I doubt that she'd be embraced.
Okay, so you don't think they're going to embrace her. So she gets the job, and they're going to still be walking around jumping in my face like Sean did, talking about don't speak to her. Do you think
Well-
that's okay? Love you,
What?
Sean.
I think what's okay, that people don't embrace her?
Yeah. What happened to
I mean,
Black
people
Girl
are gonna
Magic?
feel how they-
What happened to
Why
Black
do
Girl
they have
Magic?
to- We don't have to like every black person we meet.
Ooh,
It's not about
ooh,
that.
Ooh, especially Republicans, right?
Well, no.
Especially black
people
Republicans.
Especially people who don't have our best interests at heart. So
So you
calling
telling
out
me
an
this black
independent-
woman don't have the best interest of Florida A&M at heart?
How could she? She wasn't even. If you had watched her interview,
I watched it.
so did you saw where she couldn't answer questions, where she didn't even know about FAMU, really?
Why does she
Like-
have to know about? You think the guy from the University of Michigan knew about University of Florida? I
Who
promise you he
doesn't
did.
prepare for an interview, Don?
Okay?
Who doesn't
Again,
prepare for an interview?
I understand. And maybe she should have spent some time studying the history of the
Maybe.
Negro College in Tallahassee. I agree with
Maybe.
you, right? Okay? I'm concerned that the way this happened, this should be at the priority list of not letting it happen this way again. That's my problem.
Agreed.
Okay? And how do you do that? What's your plan to make sure that no matter what happens, you guys don't get, as you say, set up again?
I would say those plans are in the works.
Okay.
I'm not the person to share those plans.
Oh, no, I don't need to
But
hear 'em.
best believe that Rattlers are currently strategizing
Okay.
to make sure that we are never in this position again.
Okay.
or at
Okay.
least doing everything that we can within the confines of being a state university, basically existing, at the will of the state. There's only so much you can do, at
Absolutely.
the same
No,
time,
there's something you can do. There's something you can do. There's a
and
lot you
what's
can
that,
do.
Don?
First of all, you can understand the process. And I think many of these people that are loud about this don't understand the process. And first of all, you understand the process. I also believe that if you are uncomfortable with the leadership, i.e. the board, there should have been some screaming and hollering about that a long ass time ago. Yes or no?
Yes, and I
Yeah.
don't know that there hasn't been.
No? Okay. Let
To
me
the
tell you
degree-
why I
like,
don't think.
we can't remove anyone from that board.
Okay.
So
Well,
let's
guess
be
what?
clear.
If you make enough noise, maybe they'll remove themselves. I've seen it happen.
Well, and that's the hope for Marva. Maybe if we make enough
No,
noise,
no.
she'll
I
remove
don't think.
herself.
I don't think that's going to happen because you love your school, right?
I absolutely do.
Okay, I see that. You got your green on. I see you over there. My concern is this. I think we have to understand how this works. I personally don't like the way it went down. I don't like the way it went down.
On that, we agree.
But I can also say there were a lot of people who saw this coming. And when you put people on the board, okay, and I know a couple of people on the board, I'm close to a couple of people on the board I respect a great deal. But when you put people in charge that are playing the games that this board has played, and y'all knew better than anybody what was happening, yes or no?
I don't know exactly what you're referring to.
You think doing this the way it happened, y'all didn't know this could go down like this? Nobody knew this? Then that's a shame too.
Not until Devron slid that name on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's evident that the big takeaway from all of this is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
elections matter. That's
Yeah.
where it
Wait.
starts. It has absolutely nothing
That's
to do with this.
that's where
the
we're
point.
going.
It's that elections matter. It starts
That's
with
where
the
we're
ballot
going.
box.
That's where we're going, ma'am. Elections matter. So as opposed to being angry, how about the alumni and the people in Florida who support this school engage in the process of getting people to vote who don't even vote,
I agree.
right? Last time there was a giant outcry of college voters in the state of Florida, it was a guy named Barack Obama on the ballot. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And then you know how long the number's been down since then? Every year, every cycle.
Right. How long has it been since Florida's had a Democratic governor?
Look, probably 32.
Right.
Okay, Democratic
But at
speaker.
the same time, I
Right.
can tell you that there are.
But guess
voting
what? There are
drives on
a
FAMU
lot of
campus
registered
every year.
Democrats. There are more Democrats probably than Republicans in this state, right?
I don't know about that.
Okay, yeah, the numbers speak to themselves. My contention is misdirected anger is a problem. I don't care what race you are or what the situation is. You had 4 people on your board who voted against Marva Johnson. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't take issue with them voting against her at all. But I do believe that to change the direction of your school is going to have to be not just grabbing a celebrity to talk, okay? It's got to be how do we make sure or how do we engage in this process? Because now you got a black woman who's going to take this job and y'all going to be mean to her. I think that's horrible. Right? So if you mean to her, come on, really? What happened to Black Girl Magic when y'all loved everybody, holding hands, singing Kumbaya? It was all bullshit, ma'am. It was bogus.
No, it wasn't.
It was
Not at
bogus.
all.
Black Girl Magic was the most bogus ridiculousness I've ever seen because even if you disagree with Miss Johnson's politics, she's still a black woman, a very successful black woman. So, okay? So why not say, you know what, let's give her a chance. I've talked to several politicians, black women, who've said, you know what, let's just give her a chance to see what happens. You don't know. It's just the fact that
there's too much at risk to see what happens.
what's at risk? The school is falling apart right before our eyes.
Where
Go
do
look.
you see that? Go look at what?
Look at the infrastructure. Are you familiar with the infrastructure issues? I am.
Which ones are you talking about?
Oh, God. Okay, ma'am.
I mean, we're building dorms as we speak. Like, what are
Okay.
you talking about? You keep
Okay.
saying turn the school around.
Okay,
You act
ma'am.
like we're a failing
Ma'am,
school.
are you
Like,
familiar
we're
with-
one of the top universities in the country?
ma'am.
So where are you getting this
Ma'am,
from?
listen to me, ma'am. I don't want to talk about my day job, but let me just say this. You have to put people on your board like Belvin Perry, people who have been accomplished, who've done something, who've led something before. When you put people like your vice chair and some of the other people, that lady, the lawyer lady, when you put people on your board just because they're black, that's a problem. I call foul on that. I call foul on it, ma'am.
Why do you keep saying you put people on your board as if it's up to us?
It's up to y'all to
They're
make a bunch of
appointed by the
noise.
governor.
You just
They're
making
appointed
noise
by the
because
governor.
but you're just making noise now because y'all don't like to pick. You weren't making noise when you had a board that you believe was against you. This didn't happen overnight. You don't like to pick. Now you're making noise. Now it's on the shade room and all the Negro conversations. You're making noise because you don't like to pick. There was no noise when you knew that the board and some of the people on the board didn't have the best interest of the school.
I don't think it's ever been as blatantly obvious. The board, up until now, I can honestly say I personally
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
recall any situations of this magnitude that
Okay.
would have warranted this level of outcry. Now, if you have examples, I'd love to hear them.
No. Let me just say this. What's happening at FAMU has happened at every white school in this state, that state school. Go look. Somebody gets picked. A board is overwhelmingly leaning in one direction. I don't know what the criteria, the qualification for the black school is, but white colleges have picked 5, 6, 8 presidents in the last 5 years that had no academic qualifications. And not one white person that marched down the middle of the street. So we're different because we have a high expectation for the president of the university, but for not the students who attend.
What? I'm not clear on what you mean by that.
Sounds like your expectation for the leadership is higher than for the students.
Why? How did you equate those two things?
Okay. You are upset with this lady because she's not qualified, right? Some of these
Yes.
people at these PWIs in Florida are least qualified than her. There were no marches at these schools, right? Because they knew that Thrasher was going to bring a lot of money to Florida State. They knew that these presidents who have shifted from politics to presidents of universities was going to bring big checks. They were more concerned with the money than the qualifications. We're concerned with qualifications of the president
And the culture.
and the
And what-
culture. I'm
and
so
having
tired of the
something that needs
Negroes
to
and
be
this culture nonsense,
protected.
ma'am. I'm so tired of these Negroes and this culture now. What the hell is culture? Let me tell you about culture, ma'am, for a minute. Are you familiar with the name Gregory Gerami?
Yes.
Okay, let me tell you about culture. This is the worst nonsense I've ever heard in my life. Gregory Gerami, Phil. Gregory Gerami was a con man who shows up at Florida A&M last year with a fake check, Phil, you got me? For $237,750,000. And they allow Gregory Gerami to do the commencement speech, only later to find out that he was a con man and it wasn't a real donation. And you got 12 people, 14 people, however many people on this board, that nobody thought it was a good idea to do any level of due diligence or background checking of this con man, Gregory Gerami.
Let me
And
jump in
you're
there, Doc.
worried about who the next president is going to be? Did y'all have any marches when the school got conned? I'll wait.
So here's the thing about that, Don. The
Mm-hmm.
board was not even fully involved in that process.
And that's shameful too.
Because,
That's a shame.
And that falls on Larry Robinson.
And you
He
said
drove that
you
entire
said he
train.
should be the president now.
I did not say he should be the
You
president.
said he was
now.
good.
He was up until
He
that
was-
moment when he made that decision.
Let me just
He
say this, man.
absolutely. He
No guy,
absolutely-
no person should be No person should be. He should have been fired at the second they found out the check was fake. And they should have done it publicly.
I don't disagree. I agree.
So how do you let a con man, a 20-some-year-old con man, show up with a check for $200 million? Let me ask you this question. And I had to ask the people up there this question, ma'am. Did Gregory Gerami fly in on his private jet? No. He flew commercial to Tallahassee. Nobody who's got $234 million to give nobody is going to not fly in on a private jet. Larry Robinson is by far the biggest clown to lead that university just by not saying, hey, can somebody check this out? How are we calling ourselves a world-class university, yet we let a black guy, con man, okay, come in with a fake-ass check, and you give him the microphone to speak to your daughter's graduation class? How embarrassing is that? Everybody should have been fired. The entire executive staff. Especially he didn't run it by the board. How do you call this school moving in the right direction when that happens?
Listen, you get no argument from me on that entire situation.
Okay.
Because that's the first time I've seen that graduation since the day I was there, because it was removed from all sites.
Yes,
So
they have
thank you
removed
for-
it. But I
Thank you
saved
for showing
it.
that fit.
I saved it because I was on radio and a friend of mine called me a week prior. Shout out to my friend. I love you, bro. And asked me, hey, can you check this dude out? And I got back to my friend and was like, yo, man, this dude ain't real. Nobody I know knows this guy, okay? And Mr. Robinson let this guy show up on the most important day for those students who put hard work in to walk across that stage, and you put a con man on the stage with a fake check for $235 million, and nobody got fired? Every secretary, anybody who had anything to do with not checking this dude out should have been fired. And you telling me that there is not a major systemic problem in the leadership in that school?
Well, he's no longer there, so.
No, but he shouldn't be the only ones gone. Everybody in that office, anybody who may be in background checks or security, or this is a con. When I saw it in the beginning on my show that morning, I was like, there's no way this guy got $200 million to give away. His clothes were ragged. His shoes were terrible. Shout out to Real Rap Kane who pointed his shoes out, okay? So this is my point. Let's be clear, right? I love Florida agriculture and mechanical. That is, I'm telling you, Dr. Mobley, who I've spent good time with, Dr. Ammons, who I think is a solid dude, Dr. Magnum, these are good people. These are good people. They're not bad people, right? I am saying give this lady a chance. Somebody just said people did get fired. I know exactly how many, whoever you are, and it wasn't enough, okay? If you let her do, let me give you an example. If a dude shows up at the University of Central Florida with a fake-ass check for $200 million, he's probably going to try to, if they're going to find a way to prosecute him, right, Phil?
Yeah.
Follow me? So enough people didn't get fired. But when you have these kind of operations where one guy can make the call to let this happen, and then I'm hearing people telling me that Robinson was solid. No, he wasn't. He must have been a goofball to allow this to happen. I'm not taking a check for $200 if I don't know you. Let's go to ATM. Right?
Don,
Let's
look at
go.
his face.
Huh?
Look at his face.
He know he getting them. Look at his face, man. Like, I'm getting these fools, right? He like, I ain't got $200, okay? That check cost more than he had, right? Then he fly in on a commercial airline sitting in the back of the plane, right? Like, man, I bet he probably got so high when he got back to where he lived, he probably still sitting in the garage smoking a blunt, laughing with his friends, right? Yeah. Man, I got them, right? We can't allow that to happen and then call ourselves prestigious.
Two things can be true, Don.
Lauren. So I want Lauren Carter to be on the board of governors. Move to Florida, and you need to be on the board of governors. Okay?
Listen.
You got a great voice. You sound like you'll call BS when you see it, right?
Absolutely.
And you
Yes,
love your
sir.
school, as does Sam and Sean and Nikki Freeney and all my friends who love that school. And you should love it because it has done so much good over the history of that school. But we have to be honest when we're looking at the big picture. Sometimes we got to get out of our zone, man.
I don't disagree.
I believe that even if you disagree with the way it went down, which is I did, let's be clear, I did. I thought it was sideways. But the problem is your vice chair, who get ready to be your chair. Y'all should be saying, we don't want him as chair. There's no way that guy should be chairman of the damn board of trustees. There's no way. Right?
I agree.
There's no way. This guy, how, what? And I know him, okay? And not just know him, I've drank with him, okay? I don't like drinking with him, though. But I'm telling you, right? What are we doing? Listen, thank you so much, Lauren. Put Lauren's information up, man. Class of 96. Man, Lauren, you all right. Lauren Carter, class of 96. Go Rattlers. You coming to the Classic?
Maybe.
God, see what I mean, Phil? She out here live on the Don Miller Show with a green outfit on and ain't coming to the Classic.
Oh.
If nothing else, come for the barbecue.
Yeah, the car show.
The car show. No, you don't go over there. Don't you go to that car show.
I was about to say, is it safe for me to go over there?
No, it ain't safe for nobody to
Come
go there.
on.
Okay.
Well, Lauren, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Well, no, thank you for having me. I mean, thank you for the platform. I think ultimately, just to get people talking about this,
Yes, ma'am.
the main takeaway that you said that I wholly agree with you on is about figuring out how to get politics out of this
Absolutely,
entire
ma'am.
process.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, you know, making the state pay what they owe, because we didn't talk about the
We ain't get
underfunding
about the
of
land
FAMU.
grant conversation. We didn't get to
Exactly,
that.
and that's all I was about to say.
Okay,
We didn't
okay.
talk about the underfunding of FAMU.
Okay,
And I believe all of those things contribute to
Okay,
where
we got a few
are.
more minutes. How about that?
And
The
how
Don
we-
Miller Show,
yes.
Lauren, the Don Miller Show can go long, okay? We
Right,
got a
this
few
is
more
your
minutes.
show, right? We
Okay?
can go as long as
We
you
go
say.
long as hell. Let me just say this. Like, let me see how much drink I got left in my cup over. I usually go on my cup. When my cup get low, I cancel the show. But let me just say this real quick. It is a land grant institution that has been significantly underfunded, especially based on the way it was set up. And that should be the march in the middle of the street. That should be the protest. That fact that the money has been stolen consistently for a long ass time, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Mangum went before the Department of Agriculture, before a subcommittee, and in her testimony, FAMU was granted 3,800 acres in beautiful Brooksville, Florida. This was in 2015 when she was the president. Her testimony was pivotal in bringing money to a number of land grant schools. What is FAMU currently doing with the 3,800 acres they have off of 50 in Brooksville?
I'm not certain, but I believe there's a campus there now, isn't it?
Okay. But that's 3,800 acres, okay? 3,800 free acres. That ain't free. It should have been ours a long ass time ago, right? But when you go and you look at the history of these land grant schools, South Carolina State, for example, and I can go down the list of them that have gotten bamboozled and cut short because most of the time, the person that's speaking on behalf of the institution, we shouldn't be trusting anyway. Right?
Sometimes, yes.
A lot of times. So, yes, I'm going to have that show. You want to come back when I talk about land grant colleges?
We can, because you know Cornell is a land grant college.
Hello, and they get all their money. Every
Well, they're
dime.
private, so they get to move a little differently.
Every dime, though, right? They get all their money, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Again, Lauren Carter, class of 1996, Go Rattlers. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Phil,
Yo.
what'd you think of that interview?
She was good. She held her own, man.
No.
People in the comments saying you were trying to ambush her, but it's
No,
all
I
good.
could have ambushed it, but I didn't want to. I just wanted to get the facts out, and the facts are there's something bigger than the appointment or the vote for Marva Johnson happening at Florida A&M. And unless we call that out, then we're wasting our conversation. And that is my challenge. When you look at the vote, 8-4, I think it was, right? And the backdoor action that happened the day before the vote, that's what we should be concerned with. We should be like, wait, how can you do it like that? But there's such things. See, let me just say this. I want to say this, and I'm going to say this on the Don Miller Show, right? There is a conservative, which is Don, and there is a conservative.
Oh, God.
Right? I'm a conservative. But we have to beware of conservatives, because conservatives serve us no purpose. Again, thank you so much, everybody. Follow me on all platforms. I love you guys so much. Listen, I'm going to say it right here on the show. At the end of the day, I think Marva Johnson is qualified to run that institution. I could tell you she's going to bring money and resources to that institution. She's going to be able to engage with corporate leaders. I think that's what FAMU needs. FAMU needs resources. They need money. You can also find a chief academic officer and hire that person to run the academics the day-to-day and send the president out to raise money and to engage private-public partnerships and raise some damn money. Thank you so much. Shout out to all those people who tuned in. We appreciate you so much. Shout out to Sean, of course, and Sam. Shout out to everybody who watched the show. Again, thank you so much. I'll be back next Thursday. Hey, go like and subscribe and go follow my clips at Don Miller Show on YouTube. We love you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Those in the building, his swag so tight. Check your feelings, he's turning wrongs to right. Every Thursday at 8, his voice takes the stage. The man's got soul like a record with age, yeah.